Today we're going to put a front end on this BMW 318 Ti. Nice little car. We bought it. Not much money, 1,200 bucks. And it needed a new front end, no big deal. So I'll go through with you how to get all the parts off and put all the new stuff on there for not too much effort, hopefully. But one thing I want to show you is when you put these on jack stands, the BMW, they got a little jacking point right here. And underneath that's usually a rubber bumper. That's where you want to put your jack to support this. You always want to do this obviously with jack stands. You don't want the stupid thing falling on the ground and ruin your whole day. So let me get the tires off and we'll go from there. I got the wheels off. Now what we're going to do is, take the calipers off, and I cut some pieces of wire here. And what I'll do, I'll attach the calipers up to the struts up there. I'm not going to replace the struts. They're in good shape. They're not leaking. You know, it's not a big deal to replace the struts later. So I'm just going to go after the front end components and, you know, do that. If the struts go bad in the year or whatever, I guess I'll do them then. If I was a little more interested in it, it'd probably be best to do the struts and the whole front end at one time, because you know you got to disconnect the struts anyway. But again, they're not leaking. They seem pretty good. I think somebody replaced them before I had the car, so not going to do it. Now just one little quickie here. These clips on these disc brakes, they tend to, I think, baffle people how to get them off. They're locked in here. But if you just put your screwdriver in here and pop it like that, they do they pop out quite easily. I've seen a lot of people work very hard to get the stupid things out, and they pop out once you know how to do it nicely. Now let's review what we're putting in today. I got a kit from Buy Auto Parts off of I don't know if you can see that, but I got a kit off eBay, Buy Auto Parts. I got the control arm, your tie rod assembly, right, this part, one of these dog bones, and a bushing, control arm bushing, which goes, you know, on the end of there. I gotta mess with that. That'll be fun messing with that. But I got this kit for the left and the right. The stuff on the right is still in the bag. I don't want to make it more confusing than it already is. But all these parts are going on the left side, and I got the same parts for the right side. This whole kit was 145 bucks on eBay. Pretty good deal. I mean, you could spend a lot of money for these control arms and such if you go to, you know, a BMW shop. And these aren't OEM for sure, but my take on this is the car is a 1998. It's a great car. These might not be OEM equivalent parts. They're probably pretty close, but they're a lot better than what I'm taking off, because the stuff I'm taking off, it wobbles at 50 some miles an hour. You know, so they're getting worn. What are you going to say? You know, you got a little car like this with 160, 170,000 miles on it. You know, you're going to replace some parts. So I think this is a real good way to go. 145 bucks, and if you can do it yourself, you're saving a ton of money, and you keep a good car on the road. Now we got to take a few bolts off to get this control arm out. The control arm is this part in here, so we're going to have to disconnect this top of this dog bone. And a bunch of these other parts too. We'll get into that. But the first one I usually do is the tie rod end. And what you see me doing here, I got the jack up against it. This tie rod end works on a locking taper. The pin that goes through this part has a little bit of a taper to it. And I found if you hold the jack up against the base of these tie rod ends, when you loosen this up, this thing doesn't tend to spin because you have the taper engaged. If you don't put a jack under it, what happens is this bolt's a little bit rusted, no doubt. Once you loosen this a little bit, then all of a sudden the tie rod end starts spinning. It's just a mess after that. So I leave the jack underneath it, put a little bit of pressure, put a decent amount of pressure on it. You know, basically you're picking up this whole assembly here a little bit. Then when I put the impact wrench to it, it doesn't spin out. The nut just comes off, just like just wonderful. So I held it up with a jack, loosened this nut. It came right out. Then you get one of these pickle forks. This is for a pneumatic type of driver, but I usually just hit it with a big old hammer, wedge that in there, and that'll pop that right out, so not too big of a deal there. So now we're going to go for these bolts here. On the other side there's one, and this hub assembly will be free after that. And I got to try to get the ABS sensor out there. They stick sometimes, so I might not be successful with that. I may just have to wire the thing up so the ABS sensor doesn't get ripped off. So let's take these bolts out. What I did prior was, you can see, well, I shouldn't say you can see, but I hit them with some penetrating oil trying to loosen them up. Now when you take these bolts out, especially one that has a nut, try to put your impact driver on the nut side. You're only overcoming the friction of the threads. Sometimes these bolts get a little rotted in there, and if you take it off the other side, the bolt side, you're overcoming the friction of the threads and whatever crud and corruption that's in the hole. So I always put them on this side and loosen them up from that. It seems to work a lot better. And again, that crud and corruption in the hole there helps hold the hex side, so you really don't need much of a wrench to put on that side to counter the impact wrench. So let me take these bolts out. So I got all the bolts out, and the ABS sensor, which is right here, is being resistant. I got the bolt out, but it doesn't want to come out of the hole, so not a big deal. I'm going to leave it there. I can access this bolt here without much of a problem. I got straight access, so I'll take that out. And once I'm all said and done, I'll take another wire and support this thing. That way the ABS sensor doesn't get stretched and broke. And I took it off the mount here, so I might even have enough room to lay it on the ground. Actually, should have enough room to lay it on the ground, so I'll do that. So let me get the last bolt out, and at the same time, for the lower control arm, and I'll use this again to separate the two. And I'll probably want to jack it up again, like I did with the tie rod end, to put a little bit of pressure against it. Like I said, if you don't do that, from what I've seen, actually no, that probably won't help at all because I don't have any weight on it this time. So I'll just buzz it off there, hopefully it'll pop out. To keep them from spinning, if they do have a problem, you put an open end wrench on this part, and you put your Allen head, Allen wrench or something in there to keep it from keep this whole shaft from spinning. But let's see if I can pop this out without getting too much violence at it. Another thing I found is handy when you're loosening these bolts up is when you get your wrench on there, loosen it a little bit. Right, it usually comes loose a little bit, but drive it back in. Go back and forth a couple times. When you get a little bit of room, shoot a little bit of fluid in there. That lets that penetrating fluid get in there. Because what I've seen sometimes, if you try to take it off all at one time, it'll come off for a ways, but then it'll seize at the end, and again, that just ruins the whole day. It's just miserable. So what I do, I loosen it up just maybe a turn with your impact wrench, then zip it back in, tighten it back up, then loosen another turn, and usually once or twice you do that, and it'll fall right out. But it's a little trick that I've always done to keep the stress level down when working with these older cars. Trying something different here. I bought it's like a $6, maybe it was a $10 tool at Harbor Freight. It's a end puller. So basically what it is I drive this screw down into the shaft. I'm holding on to the hub, or whatever you want to call it, the main part, and it should pop this out. So usually you tighten it up a little bit and hit it with a hammer and it'll pop out. Let's see what happens. Feels like it's not working. It looks like it's a little big for the part, so I don't think it's gonna work. I'm gonna have to get my little forky thing in there and beat the crap out of it. There, I got the tapered part out, so I got this thing hanging here, no big deal. And you can see this thing wobbling. Usually when these things are new, they're pretty much impossible to move, so this was obviously worn out. So now I just, again, the strut's not moving. I got to take a bolt back there out for the inner control arm, or the bolt, the taper that holds the inner control arm in. And I got to take a lollipop out, or I think they call it a lollipop, but there is also another part called a lollipop over here that has the control arm bushing in. So let me take those parts out. Now I'm under the car. I figure I'll take this tie rod end off here, because again, I got a new one, so what the hell. But one thing you'll see on these cars is they use these Oetiker type clamps, and you don't get them in the kit, so you can buy them new, I guess. I ain't gonna do that. So I put a screwdriver in here and, you know, yield them away, and that way you can take them off, and when you want to put them back on, I just use a side cutter and you know, recrimp it. So I'll put my screwdriver in there, and it comes apart pretty easy. And you can just get it, pop that down. What you'll see on them, they got little slots, and they got little slots and some traction areas on them. So you know, they're not meant to be reusable, but what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna buy something that if I can reuse it, and it'll still work. I mean, it holds the boot on. So up here now, I'll get to taking this off. I'll show you. There's a little clip here you got to keep an eye on. You don't want to break it, but let me get a little better angle and I'll show you what's going on there. I took the whole boot off just to show you what's going on here. It's a little easier that way. This tie rod end is held on with a nut right here, and this washer that I'm touching right now, what you need to do is, you can see this is bent over. That's to keep it from, you know, unloosening when you're driving down the road. So it's very important that you unbend that so it's straight. Otherwise, if you put a wrench on here, you'll break this stupid thing. So you want to unbend it now, hit it from the other side, bend it flat, and this part will come off pretty easily. But I see some people doing that too. They'll forget to unflatten that, and you know, more crap you gotta worry about fixing later. Now here's the old tie rod end here, and you know, goes from there to there. The new one's up here, and there's that washer I flattened out. And again, you know, you put a little wrench on it, it pops right out. Now you notice with the old one, I mean, it's pretty. You can manipulate these pretty easy, so it's not that bad. You know, I don't think the tie rods are the worst things in the world, but again, they're pretty simple to replace, and you're under the car, do it. You know, you can't move this. This is brand new. It's pretty tough. But one thing the reason I'm showing you this is what I'll try to do before I put these back in is just get a rough measurement with the old one, because the old one, you know, this car wasn't in an accident. It was running good. It was driving down the road straight. So take the old one, figure out how long it is or whatever you want to do it, eye it up, and get the new one and adjust it about the same. It's not going to be perfect. I'll show you in another video how to line it up with a piece of mason twine, you know, do the front end. But that'll at least get you in a zip code. So if you get these things approximately the same length right now, it'll take a little bit of work out of it later. You know, you won't be, you know, right now I can see it's 1/8 of an inch off at least. You won't be 1/8 of an inch off. You might be 1/32 of an inch off. So now here's the toughest thing to do when you're doing this stuff. This is the inner ball joint, and you can see it's into this member. But to get to the nut, it's just a pain. So 22mm wrench, right? It'll come out. For some reason, I've done a few of these and I haven't had a problem. So hopefully I won't have a problem today. But this is the biggest pain. You can't use your impact hammer wrench, you know, to get the stupid thing out. It isn't a lot of clearance, so when you do get it loose, you're only doing it at like a 1/4 turn at a time. So it's a little bit of a pain. But for the most part, they come out. And again, put some Lucinol on there, so you got as much going for you as you can. Keep that thread from seizing up. So let me get this out of here. Now I got the control arm off, as you can see. It was a pain, just like I said, to get that nut out. You could only take a little bit of time, but it wasn't overly tight. Again, I haven't seen any that were. So then I had to get my pickle fork and smack that in there, and it popped right down. Not a big deal. Now I just got to take out this, I think they call them dog bones, but I got to pop that out. And I just wanted to show you, I like to get on the stuff with the impact wrench. It makes it a lot easier. But this thing's pretty much in line. I wouldn't be able to get my impact wrench up there, so I got my impact gun, I should say. So I got my socket, and I got this little wobbler. It gives you opportunity to have a little bit of misalignment. And I'll put my impact gun on the back of there, and I should be able to get that out without a problem. So again, this is included in the kit. It's pretty good shape, but if it's included in the kit, it's getting replaced. So let's take that out, and that'll be this half of the car will be done. I don't think I need to go through it on the other half of the car with you, but I'll do another video of the parts going back on, and one last video of how to align it. We got to get the tie rod ends to the right length, and I can show you how to do that with a piece of mason twine. So I think this concludes this video. So see you in a little bit. Next video, actually. You know, I was just thinking of something. I got this bearing puller a while ago. It's made to pull bearings off a shaft, and I'm gonna see if it'll work for this. Again, this is something I've always wrestled with, these crazy control arm bushings, these lollipops, getting them off, because they're, you know, the rubber sort of gets munged onto the steel. And anyway, let me set the camera up, and now I'll see if it works. We'll be able to see. I'll put the wrench on it and see what happens. Maybe it'll all fly over the place. We'll see. Okay, let's see what happens. Oops, wrong way. We'll go the other way. Okay, now let's try it. Oh, that worked okay. That wasn't bad at all. That came right off, so I'm gonna remember that. Okay, I took everything apart last video, and now we, putting the stuff back